Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December 14th regular session of the Bellingham City Council. We don't have any announcements tonight, but the Bellingham City Council meets all requirements of the State of Washington Open Meetings Act. Will you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Lisa Anderson.
Here.
Michael Lillquist.
Here.
Pinky Vargas. Here. Dan Hamill.
Here.
Holly Huffman.
Here.
Hannah Stone.
Here.
Jean Knutson.
Here. Okay, now I'll turn it over to the mayor for an update on the COVID-19 response.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Health Director Erica Lautenbach. Is she with us? I think she's here.
I haven't seen her name on there yet.
Well, I spoke to her about, gosh, a little over an hour ago, and she was very much on. Janice, can we see if she got whomever would be able to determine?
Yes, I can work on that if you want to go on to something else.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and do your mayor's report, Seth, and then we'll see if we can get her.
That sounds good. Thank you. I'll run through this. First off, just appointments. So these are information only. To the Tourism Commission, I am reappointing Drew Schmidt to his 5th term, Allison Farrar to her 1st term, Peter Frazier to his 1st full term, and Todd Ellsworth to his 5th term. That's information only. To the Bellingham Sister Cities Board, information only. I'm reappointing Bowler Smith. I served with Bowler Smith many years ago in the Sister City, so welcome again, Bowler. To the Seaholm Hill Arboretum Board of Governors, reappointment of Janet Ott. That's information only. To the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, Alexis Blue, reappointment, information only. I'm also reappointing David Falk and appointing Janet Rogerson to the Historic Preservation Commission, and that requires council approval.
Move approval. Second.
Motion been made by Councilmember Hamill, seconded closely by Councilmember Stone. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Aren't you going to miss being president, Mr.
No.
Knudsen?
No.
No. Okay. Finally, is a reappointment of Laura Weiss to the Lake Whatcom Watershed Advisory Board, and that requires approval.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion been made by Councilmember Lillquist, second by Councilmember Stone. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you, Council. Finally, I just need to make a plug for vacancies on boards and commissions here at the end of the year. The city, as all of you know, has more than 24 volunteer boards, commissions, and committees and various task force, and they serve our community in so many ways, advising policymakers and staff, and by providing essential support to city programs and activities. And first off, I want to thank all the people that serve on those boards and commissions and have over this challenging year. And I also just want to indicate that anybody in the community who's interested in serving on a board or commission, I'd please urge you to see the boards and commission page on the city website for a current list of vacancies. And there's also, along with that, an application, an online application form. So again, thank you to the board and commissioners who serve in these meaningful, important positions. While I'm at it, being the end of the year, I can hardly believe it's December 14th. I just want to thank the city staff. I've had the pleasure in this first challenging year as a mayor, working with just a lot of really remarkable people. And it's just been a profoundly difficult and challenging year, and they've gone above and beyond in so many ways. So they've really stretched the limits of expertise, time, technologies, just everything that's happened this year has been a stretch, and it's been my honor working with folks. And while I'm at that, just want to express my thanks for working with all of you. It's been a remarkable year in so many ways, and despite all the challenge, I know we're going to look back on it and look back on it with pride. So thank you so much to staff, and thank you to council and President Knutson. I feel very fortunate that I got to share this first year with you in that position. You just added a reliable steadiness throughout the entire year. And I know on behalf of the whole community, I thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Do we want to do our public hearing now? And if Erica shows up later, we can tap into her at any time.
Erica's here.
fine.
Erica's here.
Good. Okay. Sure.
But
And then
Mayor, continue.
I can give a brief update after that on a couple of things relating to the encampment. So let's go over to Erica Lautenbach.
Thank you. Good evening, council members and mayor. I actually have some kind of good news tonight to share. I have a PowerPoint, and I promise it's not a long PowerPoint, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So I want to give you a little picture of the work that we've been doing over the course of the year. We've met many times to talk about our work, but I think it's kind of a great demonstration of how far we've come in the last year to give you some snapshots of what's happened. So as of last week, we have contacted and monitored 2,763 confirmed cases and over 5,000 close contacts since May 28th and March 10th, respectively. We have documented 4,221 exposure events at workplaces, organizations, and employers at 952 separate locations. So we've contacted 952 organizations and worked with them to provide technical assistance, looked at their site plans, called and asked them for line lists of colleagues that may have been exposed, and made contact with all of those, as well as followed up and provide guidance and advice to almost 1,000 organizations in our community. And this just really, I just feel incredibly grateful that we have had just this wonderful team of volunteers, both at Whatcom Unified Command, but also at the health department. And some of them I've never met. Some of them none of us have ever met in person, because we were able to transition them into their work remotely. And we only see their face on a screen, like I see yours on a screen. But at the health department, we have 23 volunteers that have all committed to 20 hours a week. And they have put in almost 8,000 hours of volunteer time making contact with new cases and contacts. And this is difficult work. This is work that requires what we say sort of a nice mix of empathy and nosiness to really try to understand the full picture of what's going on, but also to understand the many emotions that people are feeling when they find out that they've been diagnosed with COVID, and kind of help walk them through that and give them some reassurance and options for how to care for themselves and their family. We've also had this wonderful partnership with Unity Care. They've loaned us 2 community health workers since I think April or May that help us when we have folks that are that need things like food or groceries, diapers, rental assistance, mortgage assistance in order to be able to maintain isolation or quarantine. They actually make that personal contact and will go and run errands and bring that to people's homes in order to make sure that they can maintain that isolation or quarantine. We also have 4 work study students from Western Washington that are doing peer-to-peer case and contact investigations. And we've had 3 interns. We had 3 interns all summer long. So just some really nice milestones when we think about how big and broad this effort has been, not just for the health department, but for our whole community and so many people stepping up to help. We have tested over 28,000 people since we started our testing project, and we've housed 142 guests at our isolation and quarantine facility. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the trends over the years, and these are not new graphs to you. This is all publicly available on the state's Department of Health website. But I want to share this because I want to talk a little bit about the holidays and just really kind of where we are and where we're sitting as far as where we've been and where we're trending. So the state, you can see we talked about these surges in the past, and we're really at an unprecedented surge statewide, which is mirrored so closely in Whatcom County, in Skagit County, in Snohomish County, and in King County. The only thing that differentiates the counties are the types and scale of the previous and the magnitude of the previous surges and the timing by which we saw these surges begin. But we are all in unprecedented territory, and we've been talking about this for over a month. But when we talk about the holidays, and we talked about this for Thanksgiving, but we really, really encourage people to stay home over the holidays, to limit any gatherings, to find other ways to celebrate with family and friends, and also just recognizing that the in-person gatherings are restricted until January 4th per the governor's proclamation. So there is good news on the horizon. I want to talk just briefly about the vaccine. At this point, we are at phase 1A, which is the very first tier of people who will receive the vaccine. Those are high-risk workers in healthcare settings. So people that work in our COVID unit at the hospital, people that work at the ICU or at the emergency department, or first responders, which is that second tier that are in high-risk situations where they're encountering COVID positive people on a regular basis. And the last group in this first tier is residents and staff of long-term care facilities. So we are working with all of our healthcare partners to ensure that so the hospital can order for their staff, but we are working with other facilities and other organizations to make sure that there is a point to order for each of these organizations, so they're able to receive the vaccine, and then that we're working together as a system in order to make sure that once that vaccine comes, it can be administered and tracked, because this is both the Pfizer and the Moderna are 2-dose vaccines. So we'll need to track from first to second dose. And speaking of vaccine distribution, we are receiving 975 doses in Whatcom County this week. That's primarily for those healthcare workers in the highest risk settings. We have 19 organizations that include healthcare providers and pharmacies that have either started the process to be certified to administer, are in the process, or have completed the process and have been certified. This represents 47 locations countywide, and we will create a GIS mapping tool on our website so folks can look and find what what organization or pharmacy is closest to them when the time comes for them to be able to receive the vaccine. This number doesn't actually include Walgreens, which adds to that number of locations countywide. Walgreens has a national contract with HHS in order to supply vaccine for all the long-term care facilities. So they'll also be a vendor for the vaccine countywide. We know that doses are coming weekly. We know that more Pfizer vaccine will come next week and the following week, and we anticipate up to 200,000 doses statewide by the end of the year. Again, that's for a large population statewide. So we will receive a few thousand out of that, but it's still a start, and it's still a way to make sure that our highest risk residents are able to receive the vaccine. And then very soon, Moderna will be on target to be considered for approval by the FDA. And then following that, the Western States Pact. And if they receive approval from both of those entities, they may ship as early as next week. So vaccine is coming. There are 4 other vaccines that are in the pipeline that only require 1 dose, which makes it easier to administer, and also don't require that super cold temperature to store. So there's a lot happening. Every day there's new information, and we're learning more and more. But our collaboration with organizations around the county is strong, and we're working to make sure that we can have the supply and the personnel in order to administer this as quickly as it is available, and to the people that are that need it most. And when it's more widely available, that we'll have the sufficient capacity to make sure that everyone can be vaccinated. So that is some good news on the horizon, and I'll just stop there if there are any questions.
Okay, thank you, Erica. Is there any questions for Erica?
Gene?
I can't see the screen. Go ahead, Michael.
Oh, let me unshare my screen. There we go.
Okay, Councilmember Lillquist.
Thank you. First, thanks for the information on the phasing of the vaccine. I just kind of want to make a comment. I'm not in phase 1A or 1B or phase 2 or phase 3. As a matter of fact, like most people, I'm at the end of the line. There's 100 to 200 million people who have health risks and conditions who are ahead of me in line. And a lot of Americans are like that. And so everything you've been doing to keep people safe, please keep doing it, because half of the country is like me, healthy, not at risk. We're at the end of the line. I have a rather nerdy question now.
Okay.
The majority of infections can be traced to a minority of people. The growing data is that most people actually don't transmit the disease onto somebody else, or very, very few people, but that a minority of incidents and cases spread to a lot of people, and that's the majority of transmission.
Yes.
So are we tracking that locally too? What percentage of Whatcom County cases, when we trace them, do we think we find a dead end and it stops there and they don't pass on any further? Because I think this says 2 things. It shows the extent to which our efforts are succeeding, that our detection and our testing and our isolation is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, but it also sort of draws a line around where we're failing, right? Those cases where we don't see that, where we see a different pattern, where we see it rolling on to the next set of cases. So are you keeping track of the number of cases where you think the line stops as opposed to where it kind of keeps going?
Yeah, so we are doing our best in that way. It requires a different way of doing contact tracing, and we're starting to adjust to that so we can look at the highest priority clusters of cases. I don't know if any of you saw, there was a really interesting Wall Street Journal article yesterday about actually the Baltimore Ravens football team. And they were able to track the subtype of the infection, and there was only 1 case of one strain of infection, 1 case of another, and all the other cases on the team were a 3rd strain. So that just sort of exemplifies this idea that that one person spread to a large number, and then these other 2 people did not spread to anyone. So we know that super spreader events are really important to track, and we have found events that fall into that category, and we are working to try to make sure that we're containing in the right ways and prioritizing cases where we see clusters and continued spread versus those where it might be one person spreading to one other person. So yeah, and your point about keeping up the behaviors is really, really important. We are many months from being at a place where we can be at our sort of more normal state, just given how long it's going to take for the vaccine to be administered to all of us. And I'm way at the back of the line too. I am one of the last people in the county that will receive the vaccine, which is okay, but it's going to be a long haul for many of us who are healthy and don't have other risk factors.
Any other questions for Erica? Okay, Erica, thank you very much for
Thank you.
everything you people are doing over there and during this whole year. And I know this might be our last council meeting of the year, but I know your work isn't stopping for a long time, and neither is ours. So anyway, on behalf of the council, thank you very much for
Yeah,
what you're doing.
thank you. Happy holidays, council members.
You too. Okay, Seth, did you have any more before we go to our public hearing?
It was just a briefest update on the encampment, and also just put council all on notice that we can have a formal toast for Chief Dahl at the end of the meeting. It'd probably be appropriate to put that under
Old business, you know.
old or new business, but
Okay.
we look forward to an opportunity to express our gratitude at the end of this meeting for Chief Dahl. You know, I know we discussed this this afternoon very briefly, but of course we're engaged in the ongoing effort to end the encampment at City Hall. As you all know, we've been working very actively to create the conditions to justify ending the encampment. It's our intention that the disencampment here will follow an orderly process, a humane process. There'll be more to come on that. I think you all know that last week it was reported that we've put a second Homes Now tiny home site at the Frank Jerry parking lot at Civic Field to increase capacity there. We're entering into an agreement with the county to provide 25 homes for tiny homes for that site. We're hoping that that's going to go operational this week. We're putting the final touches on that. We continue to be involved in active efforts to work on another site for the low barrier folks. We're putting those pieces together as it relates to working to find an operator and getting that properly conditioned, and some partnerships with some of our jurisdictional partners on that as well. So I'm sure there'll be a report put out soon to give you a status update in more detail when that's all ready to go. But I know that the city, the county, the health department, the entire community is concerned for the safety of the people camping on the City Hall lawn and the library lawn. So we're doing the best we can every day on that. Mr. Lillquist.
Yeah, Seth, you mentioned two things: the soon to go online encampment, which is not a low barrier shelter. It's a supervised encampment, and then also maybe a lower barrier shelter. But there's a third piece, which is base camp itself. One of my concerns I expressed last week is that they were having to stop people from coming inside the base camp, basically declining guests because they couldn't ensure that they were COVID free. My understanding is that now there's a new testing regime in place, that health officials have approved some kind of mechanism so base camp can start accepting more overnight guests. Did you want to say anything about that or tell, I don't know, the details?
Yeah, well, it's certainly not for me to report details of what the base camp authorities are doing. But what I can say at a very high level is that there has been a new technology for very much quicker results after testing, and that logistically they're working on a method by which people can get in an orderly way processed back in who are eligible and test negative. So I'm hopeful that that effort is going to be only increasing in the coming days. So that's good news, because of course in recent days their numbers have been way down and they have considerable capacity availability at base camp. So I suspect we'll be hearing from folks at base camp soon. That's all I feel qualified to say, because they need to speak for themselves.
Okay.
Other than that, I'll just say that I'm looking forward to a hopeful new year. I think there's a lot of positive things that are coming with the vaccine and the report from Erica, the prospect just on the news tonight. The Congress is getting close to agreeing on a considerable stimulus, which is going to affect a lot of positive things locally, including unemployment benefits and paycheck protection program increases, and a whole variety of things that are going to be very helpful to our local economy and our local health. So good news is coming. We just need to pull together and get through the next few months. I know we will. So back to you.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Okay, we will now go to our public hearing. It's a public hearing to consider 5 requests for docket amendments to the Bellingham Comprehensive Plan Review for 2020-2021. Is this Moshe or Rick or Greg?
Thank you, Gene. I can go ahead and start. Good evening, members of the council. I'm Greg Ockett from the Planning and Community Development Department. Joining me tonight is Rick Sepler and Moshe Quinn, who will be giving you the staff presentation. I just wanted to make 2 quick points before I turn it over to Moshe. Number one, we're starting this process late this year. The veterans on the council will recall we usually do this hearing in the springtime, but we were much more flexible in terms of the deadlines this year because of the COVID pandemic. And secondly, just a reminder that this is not the time to evaluate whether or not any of these proposed changes to our comprehensive plan should be approved, but whether or not they merit further study and review by the staff, the Planning Commission, and the council. So if you could keep that in your mind, we would appreciate it. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Moshe.
Thank you. If I can go ahead and share my screen.
Sure, go ahead.
Can everyone see that now?
Yep.
Okay, again, good evening. My name is Moshe Quinn. I'm with the Planning and Community Development Department, and this is a City Council public hearing to consider the 2012-2021 docket of proposed comprehensive plan amendment. Before I go on to each docket proposal, I just want to go over the review criteria with council and as well as with the audience. The first criteria is that there's resources available to review the proposal within the time frame of the annual review. And then the proposal just needs to meet one of the following criteria. The proposal represents an issue addressed in the comprehensive plan, demonstrates the potential to serve the public interest by implementing the goals and policies of the plan, serves the public interest to consider the proposal in the next amendment cycle, and the proposal addresses changing circumstances, changes community values, or updates information in the comprehensive plan. The last criteria is state law requires the change, or a decision of the court, or the administrative agency has directed the change to amend the comprehensive plan. Just to give you a little background, the comprehensive plan is amended annually. The city received 5 docketing requests. for the next amendment cycle. And as Greg mentioned, the docketing application deadline of April 1st was extended by 6 months due to the COVID-19. Again, each proposal, once docketed, will go through a separate public hearing to evaluate the merits of the proposal. And on November 19th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and voted to docket all 5 proposals. The first proposal that we'll be considering is property owners in Area 1 of the Fairhaven neighborhood submitted a request to rezone a portion of City and Port of Bellingham properties and adjacent right-of-ways in the Fairhaven Urban Village. And you can see that area in red on the map. The area is approximately 31,000 square feet in size, and that could possibly change, but right now this is just what was identified to us. The main applicant includes Dominion Development Corporation, and the city and the Port of Bellingham also signed the docket application authorizing the submittal of the request. Currently, the city property is bisected with 2 zoning designations of Industrial 2 to the west and Commercial 4 to the east. The proposal would provide the opportunity for the city to investigate the appropriate zoning of the city property under a single zoning designation. The applicant has stated in his application that due to topography constraints associated with this area and the adjacent commercial core zoning to the east, industrial uses may not be suitable for the subject area, and it could be better served with commercial, residential, or other mixed uses. This proposal serves the public interest as job and housing creation are an immediate need for the city. The proposal would correct a zoning boundary that bisects city property, and as well as provides an opportunity to investigate the possibility of adding commercial uses on a portion of the port's property, which is in close proximity to the commercial core of the Fairhaven Urban Village. The proposal implements several comprehensive plan goals and policies to foster urban villages, encourages mixed-use development, and provides an opportunity to assess vacant or underutilized land. If docketed, the city, the port, and the applicant have the opportunity to cooperatively discuss possible development approaches or agreements as part of the rezone. And Dominion Development Corporation would be able to move forward with their negotiations relating to the city and the Port of Bellingham property. Both the Planning Commission and staff find that the applicant's proposal meets the docketing criteria and recommends docketing the proposal. The next proposal is made by the City Parks and Recreational Department to rezone 6 neighborhood parks from a residential designation to a public park zoning designation. The proposal includes Ridgemont Park, Highland Heights Park, Birchwood Park, Maplewood Park, Sunnyland Park, and the Cornwall Tot Lot. The public general use type is intended to apply to major parcels of land that are owned by public agencies and used for public purposes. Parks are a permitted use in residential zones. However, the facilities are subject to the development standards of the underlying zone, such as minimum building setbacks, building height, and lot coverage and uses. Additionally, the underlying zoning development standards may not provide the development standards needed to adequately address and to mitigate potential impacts occurring off-site. The next few slides will kind of just give you a vicinity of where each rezone request is being submitted. The first one for Ridgemont Park is located in Area 4 of the Sandwich neighborhood. The second rezone request is for Highland Heights Park is located in Area 2 of the Alabama Hill neighborhood. And then you have the Birchwood Park rezone proposal in Area 1 of the Birchwood neighborhood, as well as the Maplewood McLeod Park located in the Birchwood Area 1. And the last two is the Sunnyland Park, Area 4, the Sunnyland neighborhood, and the Cornwall Tot Lot located in Area 3 of the Letter Street neighborhood. The rezone proposal serves the public interest and implements the comprehensive plan and provides the appropriate land use and zoning designation intended for land use for public purposes. Both the Planning Commission and staff find that the park's proposal meets the docketing criteria and recommends docketing this proposal. The next docketing request was made by the Bellingham School District for an amendment to the city's capital facilities chapter of the Bellingham Comprehensive Plan to include their new 2021-2027 capital facilities plan by reference. The district's current plan is set to expire at the end of 2021, and in order for the district to remain eligible to collect school impact fees, their new plan must be incorporated into the city's comprehensive plan. School impact fees are collected to ensure that adequate school facilities are in place to serve new development. The district's amendment proposal will address changing circumstances relating to needed school facilities to support the projected student population within their planning period. The proposal will update information in the capital facilities chapter of the comprehensive plan and will ensure that new residential development share in the cost of providing new or upgraded facilities within the district. The proposal implements the comprehensive plan, serves the public interest, and meets the docketing criteria. Both the Planning Commission and staff recommend docketing this proposal. The next request was made by the Planning Community Development Department to potentially add comprehensive plan designation and zoning for mobile and manufactured home parks. Mobile and manufactured home parks provide some of the most affordable housing options in the city and should be maintained as an affordable housing option. In 2019, Council may recall a specific goal, policy, and supporting text relating to manufactured home parks was added to the housing chapter of the conference plan that provided policy basis to investigate ways to preserve this affordable housing option. This new zoning designation and associated regulations could apply to one or more of the existing manufactured home parks, but it could also potentially be expanded to look at new manufactured home park development elsewhere in the city. The proposal meets the docketing criteria, serves the public interest, and implements the comp plan. And it also meets council's direction to investigate and develop potential measures to preserve this housing form. Both the Planning Commission staff recommends docketing this proposal. Lastly, the Public Works Department requested an amendment to the Capital Facilities chapter to include their new 2020 surface and stormwater comprehensive plan by reference. Council may recall in September of 2020, they approved the new 2020 stormwater comprehensive plan. Currently, the comprehensive plan identifies the 2007 stormwater comprehensive plan, which is now outdated. So this proposal will update that information in a comprehensive plan relating to Bellingham's recently approved new plan. The proposal meets the docketing criteria, serves the public interest, and updates and implements the comprehensive plan. Both the Planning Commission and staff recommend docketing this proposal. So, as I mentioned, both Planning Commission and staff recommend that Council docket all 5 proposals and approve the attached resolution in the Council packet. Staff, as well as the applicants for the docketing request, are available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Moshe. If you can get it back to the other screen, then I will go ahead and Councilmember Anderson, before we go to the public hearing, go ahead.
No, I just had a question, but please, public hearing first, and then I'll ask my.
Okay. Okay, Elizabeth, do we have anybody that signed up?
Yes, the first person is Bill Geyer.
William Geyer.
I'm sorry. Good evening, council members. Thank you, Chairman Knutson. I wanted to speak briefly about the docketed proposals before the council tonight. I would just make quick mention items 1, the Fairhaven one, items 2 from the Parks Department, and items, I guess number 4 on the mobile home parks, they have good information for you to consider and make a decision. It's complete in its application. The information provided by the school district is lacking in the information. I think you should proceed with the docketing. I support that, but I would say the school district has been lacking in their delivery, because you'll note in Exhibit C attached on your attachment number 2, they didn't even fill out the necessary forms at the front end to properly inform the staff. So that's kind of a deficiency. But I'm going to save most of my comments to your attachment 2, which is Exhibit E, the request from Public Works Department for the stormwater plan to be reviewed. I would note specifically that the application signed on October 8th, this would not have come to the council's review unless it was brought to the Public Works attention that that this sort of action is required under the Growth Management Act to be reviewed by the city as a comprehensive plan change. You'll note the staff's submittal is one paragraph and essentially wants to change only one reference in a supporting document in your capital facilities component of the comprehensive plan to say they want to change the date on the current exhibit that's coming before you. I don't believe that that was informed of the council when you passed, when was placed before you the stormwater plan back in August and September, that they said to you that it had to be adopted as a comprehensive plan change. And I know that to be a fact because subsequent meetings occurred in September with the Public Works Director. We had a meeting at the Building Industry Association that they specifically stated they did not feel it needed to be a comprehensive plan change. So that's a problem, because the Planning Commission serves you in an advisory role, as you know. Some key policy questions, I hope, get deliberated as this goes forward. Is the stormwater plan coordinated and consistent with our land use and zoning designations? Does it define the levels of service to meet the proposed population and job growth in our 20-year horizon that you, the council, have fortunately established? Is it compliant with our 20-year horizon for development patterns? And does it remove impediments to create affordable housing, or does it create new impediments to affordable housing? And most of all, is there actual improvement in the discharge of stormwater from our city to the bay by implementation of this plan? I am hopeful, I'm sure that it is. I've read much of the information, but I think these are policy issues that should have been recognized early on, informed of the Planning Commission that they're going to have to review it and bring forth to council, because it does have to be compliant with the Growth Management Act. I would support you docketing this item, but I'd also support you making some clear direction to Public Works to be much more involved in the future.
Thank you, Bill.
Next person is Doug Robertson.
Doug Robertson. That's what you said. I'm Doug Gustafson, just letting you know. So hello, this is Doug from Homes Now, Not Later. Homes Now currently operates Unity Village.
Go ahead, Elizabeth. What do we got going here?
Hey, what's up? You hear me now?
Yes,
Doug,
go.
Sorry, they said Doug Robertson, so I was.
Doug Gustafson.
Okay, you hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, this is Doug from Homes Now, Not Later. Homes Now currently operates Unity Village, the only tiny home community currently operating in Bellingham. Homes Now has been asked by the city of Bellingham to manage an emergency tent encampment within the next few days. This tent encampment will quickly become a tiny home community over the coming weeks. Campers who are on City Hall, who would do well in a community setting and working toward a self-management structure in the long run and able to work well with others, would be prioritized and are currently being interviewed. And we already have 5 people who have been accepted, and we're glad that progress is being made so quickly, and we will be great neighbors to the local neighborhood. I want to thank the city and the mayor for moving forward quickly to make progress to house more people. I want to make clear that as well, that this is a small victory, and the fight toward ending homelessness one person at a time is much longer, and much more work will need to be done from all of us to solve this problem. Homes Now will keep providing as many services as we can, and we'll keep trying to increase the level of service for every resident who lives with us from any village, with a goal of having as much of a self-managed structure as possible, meaning the residents run it together mutually. As a result of urgent actions being taken by local governments during a time of emergency, Homes Now, in partnership with the City of Bellingham and Whatcom County, is setting up an emergency tiny home village called Swift Haven. The specific three-way partnership is as follows. Number one, the city is providing the site, a parking lot of Frank Jerry Fields at Civic Field Complex in the Puget neighborhood. Number two, Homes Now is the operator, manager of the site. Number three, Whatcom County is providing modular structures with a tiny home design from 360 Modular in Ferndale. Basic units, 8x10 for interior. Each unit comes with heat, insulation, and electricity, similar to a small bedroom. Swift Haven will be in operation until spring of 2021, where it will be moved to a more long-term site. Swift Haven will start with tents, and as the modular structures become available within the coming weeks, all tents will be replaced with modular structures. Because of the emergency nature of the encampment, it did not go through the city's standard review process, which normally takes a few months. However, Homes Now wants to be great neighbors to the Puget neighborhood, and we wanted to answer any questions or concerns about Swift Haven and make the neighborhood feel more at ease as a result. We are doing a series of Zoom meetings to answer any of those questions or concerns. Those meetings are on our Facebook page as events with the correct Zoom link. The first meeting is tomorrow, Tuesday, December 15th at 6 p.m. And the second meeting is Sunday, December 20th at 11 a.m. The work is not done. With our latest site, we'll be able to help around 28 people. However, Homes Now is just one organization. We can only do so much as one group, but there's around 1,000 people in Whatcom County who still need help, and there's not enough adequate sheltering. Okay. We all need to work together, blah, blah, blah.
Time. It was Doug Gustafson truly who wanted to speak. He is signed up and he is on the line.
Doug Robertson, you mean? We just heard.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
this is Doug Robertson.
Go ahead, Doug.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Doug Robertson, 800 to McKinsey. I'm here testifying in favor of the docketing of the rezone of that portion of 10th Avenue right away and that adjacent area of the port. I've been involved with Fairhaven land use issues for over 25 years. And I represented the owner of this property, Ken Imus, for a long time, looking at different development opportunities. This is a challenging site that's being looked at right now, not Imus property, but the city and the port property. Steep slopes, an important trail, high power lines, all make it very difficult to develop. And that's important to look at when judging whether this could ever be developed in industrial. And in reality it could never be because the return's not there. Because of that background, this meets the criteria for changing it from industrial to commercial core under BMC 2020-030. It meets multiple portions of subparagraph 2. The first one, A, this is clearly an issue for the comp plan. It involves a rezone that the comp plan has to go through and adjust the Fairhaven Urban Village Plan. Also, it'll serve a couple important public interests that are identified in the Urban Village Plan. The General Goal 2.1, this will enhance the vibrancy of the urban village because it will allow the development of otherwise vacant property. It will also maintain a good balance between industrial, mixed use, and commercial, because here there will be no effective loss of industrial property, but just gain some important commercial core property. It's also under Goal 2.3, a practical application of the plan. And then under the industrial goals, it meets 2.7 because it allows mixed use specifically identified for the I-2 area. And finally, this fixed something that Mr. Imus had a little ankle about. This really corrects the zoning areas. These should not have been placed along property lines, but instead along the practical lines of development. Thank you again for allowing me to testify, and I'd recommend that you do docket this proposed zoning change in the coming docketing period. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug.
Jacqueline Sterna.
Good evening. Jacqueline Sterna, Bellingham resident, Director of Government Affairs for the Building Industry Association of Whatcom County. Thank you for the opportunity to share thoughts on this topic tonight, specifically the Surface and Stormwater Comprehensive Plan amendments under consideration to be docketed. BIAWC was able to meet with Public Works staff earlier this fall, and we had some of our questions answered by staff. Ultimately, we came to the conclusion that given the significant policy implications of the proposed plan, this should go through a Title 21 process. And we're also under the opinion that council should give clear direction to staff and process for this topic. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Brad Swanson.
Thank you, Ms. Oakes. Brad Swanson, Belcher Swanson Law Firm, 900 DuPont Street. Thank you, council, for allowing me to speak about the Fairhaven rezone tonight. But first, though, as you know, Mayor Fleetwood has recognized, it's been a while since I've been in front of this group, and certainly before COVID. It's been a long haul, and I greatly appreciate the service and the leadership that both the council and the mayor have provided. I can't get my own stuff done at home, let alone do what you guys do. So I really appreciate it. But as for the rezone application, why I'm here is I represent the applicant, Dominion Sustainable Development Corporation. Thanks to Moshe Quinn for the staff presentation. As Mr. Quinn indicates, this proposal proposes to rezone a small portion of port-owned and city-owned property in the Fairhaven Urban Village. Mr. Quinn indicates that it meets the docketing requirements, and the applicant and the Planning Commission both agree. But I know that this meeting is just to talk about docketing, and the merits of a proposal will be evaluated later. But I think it's important to just mention some highlights of this, because this rezone is part of a larger plan. It's a commercial, residential, mixed-use development, but what is it really going to provide? Well, the first thing is it's committed to providing a parking facility, and there is a long-standing parking problem in Fairhaven, and this will help resolve that problem. And there's been discussion about the steep slopes and things. The ultimate goal is to construct that parking garage in that slope, and I can't see anything else going in that space. Second, the project is committed to some low-income housing as part of the residential element. And third, the trail is going to remain. So there's public comment in the record, and you may have some questions, but the important part here is that the applicant will address all of those questions and comments as the process moves forward. And docketing this matter is the only way to do that. So we request on behalf of the applicant that the council follow the recommendation of the Planning Commission and staff and go ahead and docket this matter. And with us tonight is also Dave Christensen. He's the architect for the project, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. So thank you very much for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Brad.
No more speakers.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. I'll close the public hearing now and turn it back to council. Councilmember Anderson, you had your hand up a while ago.
Thank you. I wanted to ask a process question. Are we going to take these each individually and vote them through? Because if that would be the case, I would like to separate out the docket request, the REZ 2020-0002, which is the industrial land in Fairhaven. I'd like to review that independently.
Moshe, what is the preference? Do we do these all at once, or can we separate them?
Once a proposal has been docketed, each proposal will go through its own individual separate legislative type 6 review process through Planning Commission and with public hearings with City Council. So each one, they'll have to make their own application as they go through.
I mean, tonight.
He's talking about tonight.
Oh, tonight?
Yeah.
Gene, council, typically you vote on these things separately.
Okay.
Thank you.
Michael.
Yeah, we may want to vote on them separately. I'm I have questions about that first rezone too in Fairhaven, which is like right over there next to where I live. I'm confused by this one. It appears that the applicant doesn't own the property. How often does that happen? It appears that we, the city and the port, public entities own it. Do we usually let other people plan for us? That's kind of odd. It doesn't mean we have to not docket it. Maybe there's something unusual that's worth considering here, but I was surprised by that. I didn't understand who is seeking to do what. For this is the first time I've heard about a possible parking structure there. Actually, let me change that. There's been talk about a parking structure using that elevation difference for many years. This is the first I've heard that this might relate to that. But the problem with that has always been, how the heck do you pay for structured parking? The economics just don't work. And low-income housing sounds great to me. Again, the economics are challenging. We're not supposed to be evaluating the merits of the proposal, but those are two rather strange carrots at the end of this process. And it just raises questions in my mind. So maybe I'm arguing myself into docketing it because I don't understand what's going on, and I won't until we docket this matter and discuss it.
That's exactly true, and we do go through this every year, Mr. Lillquist. We got to keep in mind that we are not deciding on any of these tonight. It's just the docket, and I've made this comment many times before. We have the authority to docket a ham sandwich. Do we eat it after we docket it? I don't know, but that's why we go through this process now. And I know that every time this comes up, we have these discussions. But Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you. This very well might be a ham sandwich, but I am not in favor of docketing it, and I will utilize some of the Bellingham comp plan to support my reasoning. First, when we look at the one or more reasons to docket it based on a criteria. Number one is the proposed amendment represents an issue appropriately addressed in the comprehensive plan or in the neighborhood plan. Currently, this area is zoned as industrial, so it is my opinion it is appropriately addressed in the neighborhood plan. The second item, the proposed demonstrates strong potential to serve the public interest by implementing specific identified goals and policies in the comprehensive plan. Staff did list a variety of them, but I do want to specifically list one area that I think is extremely important in the comp plan, and that would be the economic development goal number 2. Accommodate a broad mix of employment opportunities while actively seeking a greater proportion of living wage jobs that will benefit a broad cross-section of Bellingham residents. We know that retail does not necessarily create the highest paying jobs, industrial do. And taking a look at a different perspective of the staff's comp plan notice. So on page 27, they do list economic development. 24, periodically assess the adequacy of supply of vacant and redevelopable employment lands in Bellingham and the UGA, especially land zoned for industry. Currently, it is zoned for industry. We are not looking at property to take out of commercial or residential to create industrial. So in a way, they kind of make a little bit of my argument using that one. We know we don't have enough industrial land. So it's my opinion that this property is zoned in a manner that, you know, if you can create commercial, then you can create industrial. It may not necessarily be extremely cost effective, but if we take out industrial land, we don't get it back once it's developed. And we need to hold on to what we have. So with that, I do not support the docketing of this. I think that it is not in the best interest of the community to take it out of industrial. I know we're not necessarily looking at the specific merits of what somebody wants to do with the property, but I feel that this property is correctly zoned and it's much needed. And I'm not at all in favor of docketing this because I do feel that It's a lot of time and energy on staff and for the potential developer, but it is currently city property. And so I think we get a say in what happens with that property. And I think it's critical that we keep it as industrial and we uphold the South Hill neighborhood plan, which lists this as industrial. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? So that was that the first proposal, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay, Michael.
I think Lisa helped focus it. It's currently zoned industrial. And the question is there a public interest served in changing the zoning to commercial core? We have to answer that in the positive. But this is also publicly owned land. And so I think we also have to expect something in the way of direct public benefit, not just public interest. I'm not sure I see that yet. It might exist in parking, but my question is structured parking already an allowed use in industrial zoning?
I'll answer that. The answer is yes, Michael.
Okay, Mr. Hamill, you had your hand up.
I'm going to try to get this thing moving forward here a little bit. So I'm going to move that we docket REZ 2020-0003. That is item number 2, the Parks and Rec Department request to rezone 6 neighborhood parks.
Is there a second? Okay, motion been made by Councilmember Hamel, seconded by Councilmember Anderson. It's the second item, REZ 2020-0003. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor will say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. You want to go to item number 3 now, Councilmember Vargas?
I don't mind to start with item number 1.
Okay, that's fine.
And I'm going to move to docket REZ 2020-002, property owners in the area of 1 Fairhaven neighborhood.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion been made by Councilmember Vargas, second by Councilmember Hamel. Item number 1, REZ 2020-0002. Is there any further discussion on this one? Councilmember Littlequist.
Several years ago, I voted to docket something that I felt very uncertain about. And one of the things I did is I indicated exactly what made me uncertain. And then it was more than a year later, it came back and I ended up voting no, because it didn't address concerns that I indicated at the beginning. I think I owe it to the applicants. I think I owe it to the staff to be clear. I may not be here when this is done, if it takes too long. But I really am looking towards public interest and public benefit. I'm going to be convinced that those are here before I approve this ham sandwich, if that's what we're making. So I'm going to vote to docket it tonight, though.
Okay, Councilmember Vargas.
I just wanted to reiterate what you said, President Knutson, is that we are just deciding to docket it. There are many procedures that have to follow, investigations, criteria, etc. But these have all determined, the Planning Commission has determined that these proposals met the minimum docketing criteria. And therefore I will be supporting these dockets so they can continue on their process and prove out their merit or not.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of item number 1 will say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Motion carries 6-1. Councilmember Anderson opposed. Item number 3, REZ 2020-0005, the Bellingham School District.
Move approval to docket.
Second.
Motion been made by Councilmember Hamel, second by Councilmember Huffman. Any discussion on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor will say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item number 4, REZ 2020-0006, the Planning Community Development request for the land use chapter to add a comprehensive plan designation and zoning for mobile manufactured home parks.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion been made by Councilmember Anderson, second by Councilmember Littlequist. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And the final one, the Public Works Department requests an amendment to the Capital Facilities Chapter of Bellingham Comprehensive Plan to include the city's new 2020 Surface and Stormwater Comprehensive Plan by reference.
Move approval to docket.
Motion been made by Councilmember Hamel,
Second.
second by Councilmember Huffman, question by Councilmember Lillquist.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit confused on this one too. We've already adopted the the surface and stormwater plan. Is it going to be amended or possibly amended in the comp plan review process? Because we already approved it, right? So I'm kind of confused as to what docketing means in this case. Will it be subject to revision in that process?
Go ahead, Eric.
Well, I'll look to my colleagues in the planning department for the more specifics, but the docketing is to make sure that that adopted surface and stormwater utility plan is adopted by reference into the overall comprehensive plan. The expectation would be we would not see changes to the technical document, which is the surface and stormwater plan, which has its own review process, but as is the standard for the utility plans, they're adopted by reference into the city's comprehensive land use plan.
Okay, any further discussion? Did we get a motion? Yeah, we did have a motion on this one. Okay, all those in favor will say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Moshe, Greg.
President Knutson?
Mr. Rafato.
Yeah, staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a resolution in the packet that essentially, I think, adds these to the docket, all 5 at once. I'm assuming that staff is recommending that that resolution be passed tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Stone.
So I just had a clarifying question. I believe that Moshe Quinn mentioned that all of these items would go through the same Title VI review process. And I know that Jacqueline Sterner in the letter from the BIAWC had made reference to recommending review under Title 21. And so I was just asking for clarification about the difference in those review processes.
I think what you're asking is that right now, just for docketing, they're required to go through a Type 6 process. But typically to adopt technical documents such as utility plans, they're not required to go through a Type 6 process. So basically go ahead.
No, the applicants aren't.
When there's a proposal to add these plans to the citywide comprehensive plan, that's when they're required to go through the Type 6 process.
And so when would, so when they make reference to the administration of development regulations, procedures, and administration review under BMC Code Title 21, what is that? And do you know what that was in reference to, when that would come into play?
The surface and stormwater plan is not a development regulation. So the only action that requires a Type 6 process is adding it to our comprehensive plan as an appendix. It's a little confusing, I know, but that's the answer.
Okay, do we have a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Motion been made by Councilmember Hamel, second by Councilmember Vargas. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We'll now go to our 15-minute public comment period. Elizabeth, how many speakers do we have signed up?
14 right now.
Okay, we'll do this for 15 minutes, then we'll run through our business and then we'll come back to it. So go ahead, Elizabeth.
First person is Kanui Rappaport.
Are you there, sir?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, council members. First and foremost, I would like to speak about Chem 210. They still need a site that has a capacity for at least 50 shelters, for the city or county to buy 50 pallet shelters on top of the 50 the county has already purchased, and for funding for a social worker for a low barrier shelter. This is an emergency, and the pandemic only makes this situation worse. Thank you for the ongoing negotiations to find solutions to Camp 210, Mayor Seth Fleetwood, and the city, and thank you, the Health Department, what you've done in providing testing for the residents of camp. I know you all have opportunities to access funding to support this camp, but if you are finding it hard to find funding, I have a few things to say about the over budget we spend on our police. The words I share are from INK, one of the organizations of 11 coalition members and 8 additional sponsors of the Defund BPD campaign at defundbpd.org, and their members and those in the community. They are similar to the words shared by Community, a local farm worker rights organization. A budget tells you a lot about what an institution values. On December 7th, 2020, the Bellingham City Council unanimously made their values clear. And again, I'm reading from the words from INK. Public input isn't welcome, Black and Indigenous lives don't matter, and militarized policing is more important than infrastructure, education, public health, firefighters, social workers, or anything else. The over 5,000 signatures on 2 petitions calling for cuts to the police budget, ignored. The hundreds of people who showed up to rallies and marches throughout the summer demanding investments in fostering Black life, dismissed. The dozens of residents who pointed out towards programs and the possibilities the city could reallocate funds towards, forgotten by the council members before comments even closed. Many in the West are used to thinking about politics as defined by 2 competing visions of good struggling against each other for control. That's not the way things work here. There is no sunlight between council members where it counts. They are all members of the cop party, friends of the landlords, and white business owners struggling against the people who want justice and peace. Of course, we look forward to the retirement of council members who have the tenacity to lecture a Black woman on when she can and cannot point out racism during public comment. The mayor and other 3 council members have until 2023 before they face re-election. We'll still be around then, and we've got long memories. But this goes much deeper than those who sit in the seats at City Hall. It's a problem of our very concept of a modern city, because this year has demonstrated that cities are essentially protection rackets for landlords and businesses. Their primary purpose, if you look at where they invest their resources, is doing violence to houseless people, people of color, poor people, and others who fall outside of the local definition of acceptable/profitable. Council will congratulate itself, as I've seen tonight, on handling over a couple million to a bunch of homophobic Christians who treat the people they're supposed to serve with contempt, then hand over 20 times that sum to a bunch of armed thugs with long records of domestic violence, abuse of authority, and racist, sexist, ableist harassment.
Go ahead, next.
HK? HK?
Please put me at the back of the list. I have some sound problems. Can you hear?
Yeah, we'll come back after we come back. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Carly Nelson.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I'm a resident here in the city of Bellingham, and I just wanted to say that I am in favor of the emergency encampment. I feel that we're kind of morally obligated to do this, and I think it's great that we're going forward with this, and I just hope that the city can make for a nice, smooth permitting process for homes now, not later. And that is all.
Thank you very much.
Laura Boucher.
Hi, good evening, council members and those attending this meeting tonight. I wanted to advocate my support for the recommendations from leaders from the Homeless Strategies Work Group to provide immediate emergency winter shelter for our neighbors living outside with inadequate winter shelters for this season. According to the company Pallet, representatives have confirmed that they have 50 units of housing available right now to be assembled on site where appropriate. We've had over 100 people camping at or near the Bellingham City Hall for over a month now, as we understand. Nights have been freezing all the way down to 28 degrees in Bellingham recently, and the company pallet could provide a roof and 4 walls for at least 50 people immediately. Please recognize the recommendations from the Homeless Strategies Work Group and make this effort your top priority to shelter those in danger of hostile winter conditions. I thank you sincerely, and I really appreciate your work on this.
Thank you very much.
Maureen Traxler.
Hello, good evening. Thank you, council members and everyone else listening. My name is Maureen. I'm a resident here of Bellingham, and I currently work as an occupational therapist at St. Joseph's at the hospital. And I just want to highly endorse Camp 210 and as an emergency that I believe that the city has a moral obligation to address. I know that it is a very complicated situation, as is COVID, and those two things combined make for a lot of challenges. But I really just want to urge us to be creative in this. Just as we have been able to see, we're now getting vaccines in a record amount of time. If we can solve that problem, then we certainly can solve this problem. I believe that it is really first and foremost a moral issue. We all have a moral obligation to care for each other, and especially our most vulnerable. It is clear that this is a matter of prioritizing this. If we can prioritize it, I think that we can find solution, and it is clear that there's also more beds available. So I please urge you to make a priority to go ahead and get those beds. I think it's, what is it? The 360 pallet shelters, 50 of them available by Christmas. Let's do this. Christmas is coming around. That is a time where we would be celebrating Jesus, who advocated for the poor. In his honor, for our Christmas gift to this community, please prioritize our homeless. Do not make this an issue of not being able to get to the library and pitting each other against each other. Yes, that's what I have to say. I really hope that we can make this work. Please work with the organizers now to find a solution for all of us. Thank you so much. I yield my time.
Thank you very much.
Marcus D. Stidham.
Go ahead, Marcus.
Oh boy. Hi, it's Marcus D. I don't know how I got unmuted there. Anyway, I am the homeless advocate on the Homeless Strategies Work Group, and it's been my pleasure to serve there, and it's my pleasure to speak to you all tonight. One thing that has been affirmed over and over again in recent conversations with our mayor, Seth Fleetwood, is that a tent is not a viable shelter. This was really driven home and proven when we all saw the wonder that Winter Haven was. What a great project that was. Great administration, lots of support. But when the snow flew, there was just no way that the tents could hold up. Well, the snow is just around the corner, guys. So one thing that I think that we probably should be able to agree on is that if you're going to be moving anybody anywhere, they need to be moving into a shelter and not into a tent somewhere, especially if it's somewhere that's even more exposed than where they are now, where they're around trees and behind a big building. If a nor'easter blew in right now, it would actually protect the people who are in front of that building right now for what that's worth. And just try it. There are people out there who have probably not experienced 60 degrees on their skin in weeks. And so we need to be aware of that. And also, I would also like to point out the rollout that we have with this Ferndale, these Ferndale buildings that are coming. I read the contract today. They show up on the 7th. There will be 5 of them. And then a week later, there will be 5 more. And a week after that, 5 more. It will be a weekly rollout of 5 per. That's 10 weeks if you go for 50 of those. So that's a long winter, isn't it, to be in a tent? And meanwhile, I also have communications from pallet shelters down in Everett. They just haven't heard from the county. They're wondering what's going on. They're asking what's happening. Well, that was surprising for me. They were happy to tell me that they have 50 shelters right now, ready to go on your lot they'll be assembled before Christmas. This is a promise from them. They're ready to do that. They're great people. I've toured the facility. It works great. I'm not slamming the Ferndale operation, but obviously it's a slower rollout. We need to do everything we can. They're similarly priced. We're in an emergency. If emergency sheltering is not triggered, trigger it. It was our job as the Homeless Strategies Work Group. It's the duty of the health department. And may I remind you all, we're still in a pandemic. It's very important that we all engage this together. This can be a community and a community solution where we're in partnership with the government. We can do this together. This is a great moment for Bellingham to step up and lead. And don't be afraid to lead, because we're going to take this to the other cities like wildfire when it works. And it's going to work if we all buy into finally helping our neighbors, get them out of the doorways, get them out of the weeds, quit letting them die, quit letting them lose limbs. Please help these people. They are our neighbors. I've known some of these people for years on our streets. These are your neighbors. We must care for them now. We must help them up. There are people who just need a job, for real. And there's people who do need treatment. Give it to them.
Thank you. Elizabeth, how many more we have? And then I'll decide if we're going to.
10 more.
Well, we're going to stop now, and then we're going to go on and finish our business. Then we'll come back. So we're going to go now to our finance and economic development. And the council chair is Councilmember Pinky Vargas.
Thank you, Council President. We had one item for us today, and it was a presentation from the State Auditor's Stewardship Award. So every year the city undergoes an audit through our state department, and we always get really great feedback and accolades on the proficiency and diligence of our finance department. But this year that bar was raised even more. And on June 1st, we went live on an updated financial software system. So if any of you have ever updated your software system at work, you know that that is not usually a very smooth process. So we went through an ERP collaboration between our finance department and our information technology department through the leadership of Andy Asbertson, our finance director, and Marty Mulholland, our IT director. And through their collaboration, it went amazingly smooth, so much so that the state even recognized their efforts and awarded a SOSA award to us today. So in our afternoon meeting, we were joined by Pat McCarthy, our state auditor, and she presented the State Auditor's Stewardship Award. And I'm just going to read that off really quickly, but it was presented in recognition of outstanding accomplishment in accountability, transparency, and good stewardship of public resources as we pursue the shared mission of government that works better and earns greater public trust. So I just wanted to give everyone accolades for that, particularly Andy and Marty for their leadership and collaboration and the support of all their departments. Congratulations, everyone. Great job. I know that that was really challenging, and you made us very proud. So that was the only item I had, and a committee.
Thank you very much. We will now go to Parks and Recreation. It's chaired by Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Council President Knudsen. Today before us, we had one item, and it was bill number 22852. Joining me was Council members Michael Lillquist and Hannah Stone. What we reviewed was a proposal for an estate donation of Lundquist Woods. Patricia and Robert Lundquist have lived on the nearly half-acre parcel, also known as Lundquist Woods, for over 45 years, planting the property with incredible trees and shrubs. The property is located above Squalicum Creek in the Columbia neighborhood and is zoned single family. The owners wish to live there until the end of their lives, but then donate the property to the city as a public park. In accordance with BMC 4.90.020, City Council needed to adopt an ordinance accepting the property, or would need to adopt an ordinance accepting the property when the future donation is made. The property may require a team of volunteers to maintain it, similar to the Friends of Big Rock Garden, and it could also serve as a special use site. The property includes a 1940 single-family home, a gazebo, several water features, a vegetable garden, art, pathways, and places to sit. Both the mayor and Parks and Recreation Board reviewed the proposed donation. We saw a series of slides. It's a beautiful property. We would be quite privileged for this to be donated to the city as a park in the future. And so it was brought for vote to support interest in acquiring the property should it be donated in the future. And so the vote was 3-0, and I so move.
Second.
Jean, you're muted.
Muted, Jean.
Okay, motion been made by Councilmember Anderson, second by Councilmember Stone. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Vargas.
I just wanted to really thank with the Lundquist family. This is a wonderful donation. It's very gracious and will be a beautiful addition to our city park. So I just thank you.
Okay, all those in favor will say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We now go to the committee of the whole. We had 4 items. The first item is an ordinance to adopt the 2018 Washington State Building Code with local amendments. Revised Code of Washington RCW 1927 requires adoption of the 2018 Washington State Building Code for February 1st, 2021. The Washington State Building Code is comprised of several different codes. Most are national models, codes adopted by reference and amendment at the state level. Others, such as the Washington State Energy Code, are state-written and state-specific codes. These building codes include the International Building Code, International Existing Building Code, International Residential Code, International Mechanical Code, International Fuel Gas Code, Uniform Plumbing Code, International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, and International Property Maintenance Code. This afternoon, the committee heard from Sean Ainsley from the building official, and the committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion been made by the chair, second by Councilmember Hamel. Councilmember Littlequist.
2 things. First, I just want to comment that last month FEMA did a report which said that 2/3 of local governments had not adopted modern building standards, and they were estimating that every year billions of dollars of property loss would have been avoided with modern building codes. So, I mean, this is kind of remarkable. But what I really need to say is we also added something into the record this afternoon.
That's the next one, Michael.
That's the next item? Okay.
That's the fire code. Yeah, that's the fire code.
That's the fire code? I thought it was the building code.
No, it's the fire code, isn't it? Or is it, do I have it the other way around? Peter? Bailman.
Right now you're talking about the fire code, I believe. That's the first one on the agenda. And then the revisions were to the building code, which is.
Okay, I wrote the other one around. So I started with the building code. So Michael, you're absolutely right. So Elizabeth, you need to read the amendment into the record that I totally forgot about. Hey, it's my last meeting, folks. Matt, last meeting as president. Next year, I'll just sit there with a blank stare on my face. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
That's okay. So this is amending in our agenda packet. This was on page 165. It's Agenda Bill 22853 in the section 105.3.3 under time limitation of application. 1 through 4, there's no change. Number 5, it states, whereas the COVID-19 pandemic and the governor's emergency declarations and proclamations are causing delays for an indeterminate period of time in the construction, inspection, and review of development projects. As such, the building official may grant a one-time 6-month extension for all complete applications submitted as of January 23rd, 2020. This extension may be granted in addition to those allowed in numbers 1 through 4 above. The applicant must request an extension on a form provided by the city and pay any established extension fee. Under section 105.5, expirations, 1 through 3, no change. Number 4, whereas the COVID-19 pandemic and the governor's emergency declarations and proclamations are causing delays for an indeterminate period of time in the construction, inspection, and review of development projects. As such, the building official may grant a one-time, 1-year extension for all permits issued as of March 23rd, 2020, This extension may be granted in addition to those allowed in numbers 1 through 3 above. The applicant must request an extension on a form provided by the city and pay any established extension fee.
Okay, thank you very much. Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Jean, I didn't get who moved that.
I did, and Councilmember Hamel seconded it.
Thank you.
The next is a ordinance to adopt the 2018 International Fire Code with local amendments. The Washington State Building Code has adopted the 2018 International Fire Code with state amendments, which are codified under Washington Code WAC Chapter 51-54A. Statewide implementation of the fire code is set for February 1st, 2021. The proposed ordinance for city adoption of the 2018 International Fire Code is amended by the state and local amendments contained in Bellingham Municipal Code Chapter 17.20. Proposed local amendments are attached and recommended for adoption effective February 1st, 2021 to align the state's fire code implementation. This afternoon, we heard from Ron Richards, and the committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion been made by the chair, second by Councilmember Lillquist. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We have evening minutes from December 7th. Councilmember Lillquist.
Yeah, I talked to Ms. Oakes about a slight change in one portion. I don't have them in front of me, but it just had to do with summarizing some of the comments that I made during the budget session. If there are no objections, I think they more accurately reflect the record. If we could, I would move that we approve the minutes with those changes, and maybe Ms. Oakes, you could tell them what the changes are.
Sure. Under old and new business, you mentioned it was in regard to mental health crisis. I'll just read what you corrected. Councilmember Lillquist commented that social and political change often requires building and creating before dismantling. Regarding a mental health crisis response, the administration and council have been working to turn from a punitive approach to an enlightened mental health response. Building and implementation of new programs take time. No, I think that was under the budget amendment.
So if people believe that accurately reflected my comments the last meeting, I would move that we adopt the minutes with that slight change in the wording in the minutes.
Okay. Motion been made by Councilmember Lillquist, second by Councilmember Hamel. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor will say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're now going to under old or new business. First of all, I need to call in Brian Heinrichs for the first one. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. 1 second here. So you all hopefully saw the email from James Erb. I wanted to read into the record it's a notice from the Public Relations Commission regarding case number 132853-U-20, and the decision number is 13257-PECB. The Washington State Public Employment Relations Commission, PERC, conducted a legal proceeding, issued a ruling that the city of Bellingham committed an unfair labor practice and ordered that this notice be posted to employees. We unlawfully interfered with the employee rights in violation of RCW 41-56-141 by deducting employee dues and not remitting those dues to the Guild as the exclusive bargaining representative. To remedy our unfair labor practices, we will not remit any and all dues deducted from employee pay to any bargaining representative other than the certified or recognized exclusive bargaining representative. We will make all employees in the bargaining unit whole by transmitting to the Guild of Pacific Northwest Employees all dues deducted from employee pay for which the city had received authorization cards as of May 21st, 2020, for the period of time of May 21st, 2020 through May 31st, 2020, or until the city commenced deductions on behalf of the Guild, whichever date is later. To the extent Guild dues are expressed as a monthly amount or percentage of pay, the city shall transmit a proportionate share of the total dues amount to the Guild based on the time frame identified in this paragraph. We will not in any other manner interfering with, restraining, or coercing its employees in the exercise of their collective bargaining rights under the laws of the state of Washington. And that'll be signed on behalf of the city of Bellingham.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We will now go to Councilmember Lillquist.
Yeah, just for the public that's listening, what happened is that a bargaining unit, large one, transferred who the representation was, and we apparently misassigned where the dues would go for that changeover period. And so that was our mistake that we're correcting.
Okay, Mayor Fleetwood.
As I alluded to at the beginning of the meeting, we have to take a moment this evening.
Mr. Dahl, open your face.
Yes, and properly honor Chief Dahl. There he is. Chief David Dahl, as was made public a week and a half ago on December 3rd, he announced his intention to retire effective January 4th. I know he wrote a statement that many of us read, statement to the community expressing his feelings about his long and storied career in the Bellingham Police Department that began 40 years ago when he was an Explorer cadet. I actually have a snapshot memory in my head of David Dahl walking the hall in his Explorer cadet uniform 40 years ago at Seaholm High School. He served, as everyone knows, in every conceivable role in the Bellingham Police Department. We've been honored to have him serve as our chief these last several years. And I just want to express on behalf of the city of Bellingham, Chief Dahl, our gratitude for your service. Thank you so much. And you're going to be mightily missed. I couldn't have gotten through this year without your advice and counsel on all manner of things. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Council, very much. I do appreciate that. I just want to say a couple things, if I may, and that is, I am just so thankful to the city of Bellingham for giving me the opportunity of such a tremendous career. Very thankful, very indebted to this city for giving me all the encouragement and tools that I needed to start out as a young kid and to an old dude. Council, I thank all of you for your continued support for me and for this entire department. I've enjoyed spending time with each of you, talking to you about changes and reform and all the stuff that we've talked about in the last few years. But mostly, thank you for your support of this department. Fellow department heads, this is an incredible team of department heads you have, Mayor, and it's been a great honor to get to know them and to work with them the last 3 years I was chief. And finally, to the women and men who serve every day in uniform, those who are in investigations and records and dispatch, thank you so much for your sacrifice. You go out, you put your lives on the line every day to serve this community, and you do a phenomenal job. Council, I'm going to leave you, but I'm going to leave you in great hands. I get to give my badge on January 4th to someone that I've been working with the last 32 years and very closely with in the last 12 years, and that is Flo Simon. And she's going to be your city of Bellingham's very first female police chief. And that's pretty darn cool. So I leave you in great hands. And again, thank you, Mayor, for this. And thank you, Council. Thank you, the city of Bellingham, for helping us to make a great police department.
As you can see, that's a nice picture there, Dave. You remember what year that was?
Well, this is a recent picture that I took about 3 years ago. Oh, but in the background is my partner, Zeke.
Yep. That's a nice picture.
Thank you.
Let me just say that 27 years ago, when I walked into the building for the first time, we had council training over in the police department, and you were one of the first ones that I met. And, you know, I've always said this at a lot of retirement parties, and I will say it here someday, and I don't know if it'll ever happen, but if we ever had a ring of honor around this town, your name would be up there. You've not only been a police chief, but you've been a great resident of this community. You've been out there helping people, guiding people, saving people. And I remember all the neighborhood meetings you used to go to. I remember all the DARE graduations you used to go to. And your service is going to be a tough act to follow, but just thank you for everything that you've done. Councilmember Hamel.
I first met Chief Dahl and had it in 1996 or 1997. I was the president of the York Neighborhood Association. Speaking of neighborhood associations, and back then, Chief was just he was a patrol officer and was assigned to our neighborhood and would come and update the folks at the meetings on what's going on. And I've known him since that time. And I just wanted to say thank you for your decades of service to Bellingham. Thank you for being a leader, and I just appreciate you as a person, and I hope you have a really good retirement.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, I will say one last thing. If you ever go to an auction with Dave Dahl, let him do the dessert dash, because he will knock, push, kick, scratch, beat anybody to that first dessert. Let me tell you something. I've got firsthand knowledge of that because I did it a couple times. Thank you very much, Chief, and we wish Flo Simon all the best too. Okay, anything else under old or new business? Councilmember Vargas.
I just had one thing, Jean, of course, this is our end of the year meeting, and quite a year it's been, recognizing that 2020 has been extremely challenging on so many levels, a pandemic, social unrest, economic instability. And everyone has made sacrifices, and our lives have changed, and we've had to adapt in a lot of new ways. And so I really want to thank the city staff for all their efforts and adaptability, for keeping the city operating. And, our new mayor, quite a first year for you. Thank you so much. And really want to commend you on joining forces with the city, with all the small cities, with the port and with the county on addressing these huge things that we're all facing together. Thank you for that collaboration. And I want to thank my fellow council members. This has been like a year like no other. And thank you for your service. And to Jean, you're our rock, but you always know how to bring some levity to the situation when a lot of times we really need that. And I really want to thank you for that. You're amazing. Thank you for your leadership for so many years. And then, thank you so much to our healthcare workers and to our health department for such extraordinary efforts. And I can't believe the way everyone has really, really stepped up this year, including the people of Bellingham, and for their compassion, their engagement, and for caring for each other, for serving at the food bank and Meals on Wheels, for helping your neighbors, and doing everything you can to be there for each other. It's been amazing to watch. So I just want to say, be safe out there, wear your mask, buy local, be kind to each other, and happy holidays. We'll see you next year.
Thank you very much. I want to take this opportunity and thank everybody for allowing me to be council president this year. This was a very challenging year, but it was also a year that just exemplifies what Bellingham's all about. We might get knocked down a little bit, but we always get right back up again. And we're in that situation now. And I have to take this time. For me, when I was told we wouldn't be in council chambers anymore and we had to do this all on computer, I was a little on the frightened side because I'm not the greatest person on the computer, and I really want to take this time and thank Marty and her total amazing IT staff for what they do for us probably every single day with Zoom meetings going all over this city. To Janice Keller for coming back and being our communications director again. We'd really be in trouble without her. And I also want to pay tribute to Monet Kerr, who has left us, but I also want to thank Mark Gardner, who has been there many, many late nights with me when I was still down at City Hall, and all the work that he's doing with our council office until we get a new person hired. And also to the quarterback of our team, and that is Seth Fleetwood. I'm an old baseball guy, coached Little League Baseball for 20 years, and I have never seen somebody get up to the plate so many times and get stuff thrown at them and continue to keep going up at the plate. And you've done it your first year. This has been an absolutely challenging, grueling, tough year. but you've sailed through it. You've met the test. Your leadership is great. And on behalf of the council and on behalf of the residents of Bellingham, we all salute you for everything you've done your first year in office. And I'm sure your next 3 maybe will be a little bit calmer than your first one. And you'll probably never forget this, but thank you for everything. And I also want to pay tribute to my wife, Jan. We're going on our 25th wedding anniversary, and she has known nothing but me being on council and getting home late nights, and she hears the meeting regurgitated over and over and over again before I go to sleep. And then when I get up in the morning, so I got to pay tribute to her also. And she held the flag for me tonight out of the camera. So I want to thank her for that. But also to the new council members and to all the council members, you also done a great job your first year. This is a great group, and I'm really happy with this group and what we've accomplished and what we're going to accomplish next year. And just thank you for everything. So is there any other old or new business? Okay, we will now go back. No, now we have to go to, we didn't have an executive session, so now we'll go to the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion been made by Councilmember Lilquist, second by Councilmember Hamel. Any discussion? All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Also, I missed somebody, and before she does final consideration of ordinances, we have to thank Elizabeth Oates too. She has been amazing, and starting next year, she'll be doing all our afternoon meetings if we ever get back into chambers, afternoon and evening meetings. And thanks, Elizabeth, for always keeping me on track too. It's a daunting task. Final consideration of ordinances.
Agenda Bill 22798, an ordinance of the City of Bellingham, Washington, amending the land use chapter of 2016 Bellingham Comprehensive Plan to add new food policies.
Move third and final.
Second.
Motion been made by Councilmember Lilquist, second by Councilmember Stone. Roll call.
Hannah Stone,
Aye.
Pinky Vargas,
Aye.
Lisa Anderson,
Aye.
Dan Hamel,
Aye.
Holly Huffman,
Aye.
Jean Knudsen,
Aye.
Michael Lilliquist.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0. Agenda Bill 22564, an ordinance of the City of Bellingham, Washington relating to land use planning and updating the Bellingham Comprehensive Plan with the new Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan.
Move third and final.
Motion been made by Councilmember Vargas, second by Councilmember Anderson. Any discussion? None. Roll call.
Pinky Vargas,
Aye.
Lisa Anderson,
Aye.
Dan Hamel,
Aye.
Holly Huffman,
Aye.
Jean Knudsen,
Aye.
Michael Lilliquist,
Aye.
Hannah Stone.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0. Agenda Bill 22799, an ordinance of the City of Bellingham, Washington relating to the Bellingham Comprehensive Plan, amending the Area 1 policy narrative in the York Neighborhood Plan.
Move third and final.
Motion been made by
Second.
Councilmember Huffman, second by Councilmember Anderson. Any discussion? Roll call.
Lisa Anderson,
Aye.
Dan Hamel,
Aye.
Holly Huffman,
Aye.
Jean Knudsen,
Aye.
Michael Lilliquist,
Aye.
Hannah Stone,
Aye.
Pinky Vargas.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0. Agenda Bill 22778, an ordinance of the City of Bellingham, Washington, authorizing closure of the Drake Note Fund.
Move third and final.
Second.
Motion been made by Councilmember Vargas, second by Councilmember Anderson. Any discussion? Roll call.
Dan Hamel,
Aye.
Holly Huffman,
Aye.
Jean Knudsen,
Aye.
Michael Lilliquist,
Aye.
Hannah Stone,
Aye.
Pinky Vargas,
Aye.
Lisa Anderson.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0. Agenda Bill 22838, an ordinance of the City of Bellingham, Washington, authorizing closure of the Olympic Pipeline Incident Fund.
Move third and final.
Second.
Motion been made by Councilmember Anderson, second by Councilmember Huffman. Any discussion? Roll call.
Holly Huffman,
Aye.
Jean Knutson,
Aye.
Michael Lillquist,
Aye.
Hannah Stone,
Aye.
Pinky Vargas,
Aye.
Lisa Anderson,
Aye.
Dan Hamel.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0. Agenda Bill 22840, an ordinance of the City of Bellingham, Washington, amending the 2019-2020 biennial budget, increasing estimated revenues and expenditures, and authorizing an interfund loan of up to $100,000 from the general fund to the Medic One Fund.
Move third and final.
Second.
Motion been made by Councilmember Hamel, second by Councilmember Anderson. Any discussion? Roll call.
Jean Knutson,
Aye.
Michael Lillquist,
Aye.
Hannah Stone,
Aye.
Pinky Vargas,
Aye.
Lisa Anderson,
Aye.
Dan Hamel,
Aye.
Holly Huffman.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0. Agenda Bill 22775, an ordinance of the City of Bellingham, Washington, adopting the 2021-2022 biennial budget.
Move third and final.
Second.
Motion been made by Councilmember Vargas, second by Councilmember Anderson. Roll call.
Michael Lillquist,
Aye.
Hannah Stone,
Aye.
Pinky Vargas,
Aye.
Lisa Anderson,
Aye.
Dan Hamel,
Aye.
Holly Huffman,
Aye.
Jean Knutson.
Aye.
Agenda Bill 22839, an ordinance of the City of Bellingham, Washington, relating to the 2021-2022 budget, authorizing an interfund loan of $1,465,993 from the Greenways Maintenance Endowment Fund to the Public Safety Dispatch Fund.
Move third and final.
Second.
Motion been made by Councilmember Littlefield, second by Councilmember Anderson. Discussion. Roll call.
Hannah Stone,
Aye.
Pinky Vargas,
Aye.
Lisa Anderson,
Aye.
Dan Hamel,
Aye.
Holly Huffman,
Aye.
Jean Knutson,
Aye.
Michael Lillquist.
Aye.
Okay,
Ordinance passes 7-0.
thank you very much. Now we will go back to our comment period. Thank you for your patience, and go ahead, Elizabeth.
Next person signed up is Mary Stidham.
Hi, this is Mary Stidham. I want to start by thanking Seth Fleetwood for his attention and care for Camp 210 and all of the efforts he's making to make that protest a successful protest. He really is working with the volunteers that are helping out at Camp 210 in order to find housing for everyone that's on the lawn right now. What I do hope, though, is that the city can put some money into buying more pallet shelters. And I say pallet shelters because those are the preferred shelter over the shelters that are being purchased from the company in Ferndale. Now, I understand Sad Paul probably wanted to keep the money in the county, and I appreciate buying locally and all of that, but I do wish that it had been considered that the snow is coming and we don't have 10 weeks to wait for all of these shelters to be built. We need at least 150 more. And the pallet shelters in down south in Everett, they can be provided to us now. That's the only way that this Camp 210 is going to have any success in ending and removing themselves from City Hall, is if pallet shelters are provided for every single person that is on those lawns. So I hope that you all consider doing what's right and sheltering those that are the least fortunate among us this winter and moving forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Teresa Mears.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to take this opportunity. It's your last meeting of the year, and I've been watching the others and refraining from making comments, as difficult as it's been. I just really want to say thank you to the mayor and to the city council and to the police chief. You know, I sit back and I look at the progress that has been made, and I've been doing outreach to the homelessness town for 17 years. I'm the senior outreach worker. So, you know, there's so much that's taken place since we started this. When I think of 2003, and I think of now, and even just the last couple of years, the addition of the GRACE program, the addition of the LEADS program, the expansion of the triage center, which will probably open up after the first of the year, the larger shelter, and the fact that it's going to have actual beds, that's exciting. I want to congratulate Homes Now on, you know, getting this new temporary shelter, and I think that's a great answer. I want to thank the churches that are contributing so much, and I know people aren't recognizing that. They act like other people aren't doing anything, and there are so many people that are contributing so much to the less fortunate in our community. You know, I see the First Baptist Church and Interfaith, what Interfaith is doing, and Fountain Community Church and the First Congregational Church and Faith Lutheran and the Trinity Lutheran, and the blankets they make for us to give to the homeless from the Hope House and from St. Paul's. And I just, I'm so impressed. And our mental health, they've really ramped up all of the Unity Care and Compass and Lake Whatcom Treatment Center and Seymour have all ramped up and are doing so much more and have more caseworkers. Whatever they're saying at 210, I don't care. There are caseworkers working with a lot of people out there. There's a lot of things that are happening. And I've heard tonight a lot of that word collaboration. And I'm so impressed with the collaboration that I see between the Lighthouse Mission, the Opportunity Council, the churches, the mental health people, all working together, the community paramedic, the trio. I mean, it's just amazing the number of people that are working together to solve the problems that exist and the opportunities to solve these problems in our community. And I want to thank all of those people. I don't, you know, there's so much that we've been able to do over the years because we've done it with dignity. We've done it with compassion. We've done it with caring. We've done it with honor, and we haven't had to, you know, call people names and tear them down and put them down and you know.
Time.
Thank you, Teresa.
Melissa Weisner.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Yeah, none of those churches have opened their doors and let any of those people in while it's freezing outside. So she can keep going off about that. That's great. We need help though. Yeah, and I'm super, super happy for Swift Haven, and I'll be really happy to get those 25 people off my lawn as soon as I can, off our lawn, and into something that's stable. I would just like to share what I did tonight. I had a mental health patient who was screaming because her and her boyfriend broke up in a very dramatic fashion, as street people tend to do. And she was upsetting a lot of other people. And because she had a house to go into, I was able to escort her to her place of living and remove her from the situation and get her calmed down. That is a luxury I'm very rarely afforded in these last 2 months because we're all intense, pressed up against each other on the front lawn. I need 150 pallet shelters. This is the most depressing Christmas I have ever had because I want these people to have 4 walls and a roof for Christmas, and they're just getting moved around in tents. We need emergency sheltering, and St. Paul is sitting on 50 pallet shelters and hasn't even talked to that company at all when they were supposed to be pricing between the two. We don't need between the two, we need both. And he has CARES dollars or money somewhere, and he can buy those shelters for us, and we could get 50 more people off that lawn, and that would be huge. The more people we can get into 4 walls in a roof, the better off my life is. At least a third of these kids are the age of my child. They're 18, 20, 21, 22. Like, I have pregnant girls down there. Like, they need shelter. Like, I can't keep screaming at you people. And apparently Mary or Karen or whoever was before me is really upset that I do. But guess what? With all her grace and all her dignity, you got 150 people out there on the lawn suffering. So apparently it's not enough. I need more than that. I need you guys, and I need you to push St. Paul to get up off his butt and actually cooperate with you guys. The city's pulling some of the weight, and I'm super proud of that. And thank you, Seth. You're doing awesome. Keep it up. But we need St. Paul, and we need the county in on this, please. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Catherine Orlowski.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, this is Catherine Orlowski. I'm a homeless advocate. I'm a board member of Homes Now. And I just want to come here first and say thank you. Everyone, the whole community's come together and it's really been working well. I'm happy to see the other agencies down there, the rapid test down at the Lighthouse Mission, Opportunities Council willingness to work around with us to get the much needed resources to the camp. The EMTs have been great, the fire department, the police, everyone, super great. I'm really happy. I just want everyone to think about, you know, I know many of us are very attached to being local. I am extremely, and I really believe in that firmly. And I just want to balance people's lives and how slowly the pallet shelters are coming in. I'm requesting that we work with multiple partners or even have locals build things. I mean, Homes Now has 300-400 volunteers, and a lot of them are construction people. We just need these things built as fast as possible. 5 a week, I'm just concerned about that. I know the other one will, in theory, come online. But please just consider working with multiple partners. People can and will possibly die out there. A lot of vulnerable, elderly, pregnant. And I also want to come here tonight to try to echo the voices of the campers. They are super grateful. It tears me up. They are so grateful, and I don't think their voices are showcased very often. And they want to really express gratitude. And I wanted to share a quick story about something that happened maybe a week or 2 ago. And one of the city employees had their window open. And somebody, one of the campers, shot a paper airplane up through her office window, 3rd floor. And it absolutely blew me away, the skill it took to get that. It blew her away. And inside that paper airplane was a little note saying how much this camper was grateful. I really invite everyone to invite the campers to speak and share their stories, because as I listen to them, they're heartbreaking. You know, there are people that are sober down there. There's people that are just fell through the cracks. We have a full range of people down there. There's addicts down there, mental health, you know, so much, and they just need help. There's people that are now sober down there from when they first came into camp, and they are the way they are now. It blows my mind how connected they are to the community they formed down there, how grateful they are just because they felt like they have some dignity now. So think of that, about that, all those things over the holidays. And I'm happy, I'm expressing gratitude today, and I'm super, super grateful to everyone. Thank you, and I love you all. I yield my time.
Thank you.
Krista Joy Clemens.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Chris Camara, longtime listener, first time caller. Hi, Seth, Hannah, Mike, the rest of you who haven't had the pleasure. I would just like to, for one, really applaud the city for working with Homes Now to start Swift Haven. Hopefully this is the start of a better working relationship with the people who run the city and the homeless residents. Number two, I would like to again address just how Bellingham is getting flooded with other homeless from across the nation. I've talked to several people at our gate. I'm a resident of Unity Village through Homes Now, and other people on the street, and people are just flooding here because of what we're doing and how we're handling things. I've been told that the camp downtown at City Hall is more like a festival than a homeless camp. It sounds like there's a lot of good people down there, but they don't necessarily always feel safe or protected there. There's fires, there's alcohol, there's drugs, there's theft. So it's great that that we're sort of trying to pursue building some temporary housing. But again, I really want to adamantly reiterate the point that the nation is watching us. What are we saying as a city? What are we saying just to our residents or Bellingham residents, Bellingham homeless getting lost in the shuffle as new people move here because what we're doing, but we could really be a light for the nation and show them how to do it, how to take care of people. I mean, we're Bellingham. We're the little city of love, which is a great possible new city slogan. Ours sucks. Whoever would want to subdue excitement, I don't know. Anyway, that's really all I wanted to say is we need to really just be aware of our language and what we're saying, not only to the homeless people here, but also to the nation. Building a house is great, but we also don't want to make it doesn't want to come across like we're just building holding pens either. I heard somebody earlier say these people, or as street people often do. I want to get these people off my lawn.
Time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. And our last speaker.
HK?
You there, Heather?
Hi.
Yes.
Hi. Heather Katahdin, tax paying resident. Thank you, Mayor, Council, staff for your good work. I wish you healthy and safety during the upcoming holidays. Well, tonight I'm speaking live outside City Hall. And if anyone is inside, look out your window and I'm here in the cold waving. And there's many other citizens out here too. It's been quite the incredible year of Zoom, and our citizens are still working together, and some of them are still here outside of county and city halls. So I'm here because I support our unsheltered citizens through the process of applying for safe and warm tiny home shelters being created at the new Swift Haven site in our ball field parking lot. And I understand there's 25 tiny homes in process of being built and delivered. This is wonderful news. I share gratitude to city and staff and Mayor Seth for facilitating this process. However, my concern tonight is there are many more unsheltered citizens outside in their communities in tents or their cars. When I've reviewed the capacity we have potential beds for combining base camp, overflow drop-in center, and the emerging 25 at Swift Haven. It's obvious that as a community, we will need many more safe winter shelter solutions. I'm aware that our Whatcom County Council staff researched pallet hut shelters and that this company has 50 units all built and available to deliver before Christmas. Please, Council, please, Mayor Seth and staff, consider what emergent actions you can take to identify more public unused land where these pallet huts can be placed as a housing first village style shelter before the end of this week. Tonight, while on a walk at City Hall, an elder citizen sleeping on the ground who uses a wheelchair expressed his desire to receive a safe, warm shelter tonight and shared he wasn't able to wheel himself down to the health department last week to be interviewed by the health nurses interviewing for Byron Street. He doesn't have a phone, and he asked me if I would call the Bellingham medics to visit him for a medical welfare check. He hoped they would know how to assist him getting into the quarantine shelter, and he didn't think he could make it through another night on the cold ground, and he needed closer access to a handicapped bathroom. He had recently been discharged from the hospital. The medics came, were very thorough and helpful, and we all appreciate their good work serving our community. Unfortunately, their department system did not allow them to access the Byron quarantine facility.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, thanks to everybody. I forgot one person I really have to thank because she has been really doing a lot for us. And that's Tracy Lewis from the executive office. She has been putting together our packets, and that is not a lot of fun when you're doing about 8 or 9 other things. So Tracy, if you're still watching, hold your glass of wine up high, and here's a salute to you. So our next meeting will be Monday, January 4th, 2021. It will be a reorganization meeting. It'll be in the afternoon only. We won't be coming back that night. So we'll see everybody on Monday, January 4th, 2021. All of you have a great holiday season, and here's to a happier new year.
Happy holidays. Bye, everybody.
Meeting adjourned.